Hey, this is Syed again. So this is the second video, part 2 of the Selenium framework in 2000. So in this tutorial, we're gonna do some setup in the project structure, and then we're gonna create some configuration class and also set up some WebDriver. So let's get started. The first thing, we're gonna open our IDE. So this is our laptop. So as you remember, we had 1.11 before. I changed it to 11. This is the way we should define it now. Let's see if this works. So if we just actually we don't have a class. I deleted the old class. We had the test class. So just let's create another one. So we're gonna create a public void main class method, and just log some string here. This is main class. Okay, let's try running it. So this works fine when we defined as 11. So next thing we need is some plugins. The first plugin we need is the compiler plugin. So if you go to Apache Maven project .org plugins, Maven compiler plugins. So we're gonna just copy the whole section from plugins and put in our inside the build plugins. So the source we need to change it to the Maven compiler version. So compiler source and the other one is target. I'm just gonna copy and paste. Next plugin we need let's try this if it still works. So we're gonna go to the main and run it. Hope we don't get any error. So it's still working. So next we're gonna get another plugin, which is Maven Surefire plugin. This plugin allows to execute test and retest to from pom.xml. So I'm gonna there are a whole list of options we can get it from for using groups if you're running test in parallel and stuff like that. But for now, the XML file, the one with XML file is fine. So copy the whole thing, go to our pom.xml, and inside the plugin just paste it here. Next thing, we need to just create a version for those in the properties. So I'm gonna call it Maven compiler version, and just copy this and go to the compiler. Do the same for Surefire. Copy the ID, version ID, and we just copy the properties and put it in the version section right here. Let's build the project again, see everything still fine. Let's run the test. Yep, everything works fine. So in SureFire we can define the XML file, which is a test.ng XML file, and this will allow us to create run our test from pom.xml. So in SureFire plugin we can also define the system properties. Okay, we're gonna use this later of this tutorial. For now everything is fine here. So for so what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna create update our structure. So currently we have a Java only, so I'm gonna create a, if you right click on it and new, then you can click on create new packages. Usually package name start with com, then the name of the company. In our case we can just put Google, since we'll be using Google product for our testing, and click enter. So we have com, and inside com we have Google. Next thing I like to do, create another package within within Google. One is core, and we're gonna create another one, another package which will be apps. So all the app resource will go under apps, and all the framework functionality will go under core. So we have two folder here, two package. So in core we're gonna create a new directory which is utils, and also another directory. This is gonna be setup, also another directory for configuration, or we can use setup for configuration also, that's fine. In app we're gonna create a new directory for pages, another one for script, another one for XML file. So this is where we're gonna create our testng.xml. Just create a new file, call it testng.xml. So let's get take a look some sample. So this is how you can define the testng XML. So if you go to the testng.org and in document section, you will see the example how you can set define your XML file for testng. I'm just gonna copy everything from here and put it in our project. So paste it. So we don't need this section. The one test is fine so far. So next thing, you can name anything you want. The suite name for us is gonna be Google UI test. UI test suite, and the test name maybe Google search test, and the class. So within the class we can define all the test. Now where the package, we can define the package here in this section. So we have a test class here, we can just move it for now in the app section. Just refactor. So we have our test here. So in the XML file we can just call this one out. So this is under, So if you see this under com Google, then within Google is apps, so com.google.apps, and the file name is test.class. So let's define if let's get rid of this main function. We're gonna use the test annotation from testng and create a new test, public static void test example. Okay, let's print some logs. This is test example. Okay, now we set our test. We have to tell our pom.xml where our test XML is located, so which is here. So the way you can do it, so here we can define the path. Let me create some properties for framework. So we can call it test XML, and so there is there is a command to get to this path, like before source. So in the project path, the way we can get it within the XML file using user.directory. So if you put $, then user.directory, this will bring us to here, and after that we just need to define what is this test.xml file is located, so which is like under source, then java test, then java, then com, then Google, and inside Google is apps, and inside app then XML, and then testng.xml. So now we can, since we have these properties defined within the properties, we can just call this in here. So the way you can do it is just $, then curly bracket and testng.xml. Let's make this. Now let's see if everything works. We're gonna just run maven test command. Okay, so the test run, but we got some compiler error, warning, actually not error. So file and code has not been set. So let's see why we are getting this warning. So we can just Google it. So within the property, okay, within the properties we need to set this build reporting. Okay, I think we need these two, project.build source and coding. So go back to our project. We need to set this here in properties. Let's refresh and build again. Okay, we didn't get that warning, so the test is still run and everything's look green. So far so good. Okay, so now you know how to set up uh, Surefire plugins within the test and within the pom.xml. Now we're gonna create a configuration. So in the setup, we can create a new Java class. We can call it framework configuration.java. So here we need to set some configuration. First, let me create let me delete this one actually. So let me create a properties file here, new file within the resource, and call it config.properties. So once you have from config.properties defined few test framework parameters or keys. So one key I can think of, debug. Debug equal to another keyword, maybe browser. Another one maybe headless. This for now should be fine. Let's configure this file, these properties. So the way we can do it, in the test configuration, we can let's create a constructor, and here is public framework. So here we don't need to pass anything for now. Let's create another method. Initialize method. So we can create a private, not public, private config what is config equal to set it as null. So here we can create a private also. Then the method's signature should be void, and the method name is the initialize. So we can say if config equal to null, which is null, then we can do following steps. So the first thing we have to do, we have to define the variables equal to new properties. Then need to create file input input string, I think. This file input string fis equal to new file input stream. Here we need to put the file path. So let's define a path here, private string file config file path equal to, you can use system dot get properties user dot directory, then concatenate with actual path, which is this one. Just go right click on it, copy, then copy path. So we're gonna copy this path, put it here. You just have to add a slash sign here. So this should be it. Now we can use this path here within the file input stream. This require a exception handles, so just alt plus enter and you'll get this option. Just add it to the method signature. Okay, now next thing you have to do, you have to load config dot load, and we can load this file within the config now. So FIS, we have to do also exception. Okay, so now we have access to this config file, but since this is private, we need to create a getter for it. So we can generate a getter. So we can call it get config. So that's fine. I'm just gonna copy this and paste it here. Okay, we can just delete this one here. Okay, we have to create a few more variables. So let's get all this and all these variables from the config properties and paste it here. This is a debug, so this is a private, it's gonna be boolean type, browser is private, string type, and headless should be boolean type. Let's generate some getter for them also. Getters, here you can select all three. So you got all these getters, just cut. We can paste them under getters. Now we have access to this actually the way we can access, not like this, so this one is gonna be config return config dot get properties, and name is debug, and this is gonna be we can just cast it with boolean. Okay, we have to do boolean dot value of string. Okay, so this is by default is false. This is by default from, and this is by default false. Okay, we're gonna do the same for this. So return config get config dot get properties and the browser. This is the same as this value right here. The next one is gonna be the headless. Get config, get properties, and we also have to get the boolean value of string. Okay, right, is headless and is debug. So these are all the configuration we need so far, but we have to do one other steps in the initialization. What if we want to like override this with system or environment variables? So the way you can do it here in the initialize for you can use for each which is config for each so object key for config or get config. Key set. So for each key set we can now check if there is any environment variable or system variables. If there are existing system and environment variables, we can override them with that. The first one should be the environment variables. So if system dot get env, here we can set set keys here, but we have to cast it with string since this is object, not a string. So you can say string not null. Then we can say sysout updating key so string key with env variables, and here we can set that variable. So the way you can do it, get config, set properties, and then the name of the key, which is this. So string key. and with env variables, which is system dot get env, and name is this. Okay, we don't need to cast anything here. We're gonna do the same for property, system property also. So we can just copy the whole thing. So you can say else if get properties. So this is system properties, not null. Then update with the system variables, and here this is gonna be system get properties, else you can just say using the for key assist. Okay, so this is done. We can put this initialize method within our constructor. Let's handle exception. So that's it. Okay, now what you can do, in the test class itself, if we call this framework configuration to new framework, just put the exception. So that should be it. Now all we have to do is so first let's run that test again. So as you can see, everything is default now, because we don't have any system variables for those. So now if I run another maven command, maybe test, then override the headless mode, or so we can just define it dash headless, which is LESS equal to maybe so currently it's false. We can make it true. So if we run this test now, so here you can see updating headless with system variables. You can also check if environment variable is getting updated or not. So let's go to the directory, open in Explorer. So here let's open the git bash. Let me make it a little bigger. So the way we can pass environment variable here is name of the environment, which is headless, LESS equal to false, true, TRUE, then the maven command bn and test. So here updating headless with environment variables. Okay, so this is gonna be it for now. The video is getting longer, so you know how to update the variables, system variables, environment variables, set up the configuration, and update automatically using these loops. So if you have any question, let me know. I'm gonna continue in my next video with the web driver setup. So see you guys then. Thank you.